She was a very caring person. I would say she was always looking for someone else's well-being before hers.
He was just everything that you would expect for somebody who was happy and joyful.
But TJ really was the type of kid, when you say he lived every day as if though it had 28 hours in it instead of 24, that's the way he was.
Madison was she wasn't the most outgoing. You know, she was friendly, but she kind of stayed to a smaller group. She was a rugged little person.
Yeah, she did taekwondo growing up. That's her helmet up there.
She played football. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great dancer. Anytime there's music on, she's going to be the first person on the floor. That's her.
Johnny was actually my miracle baby. This redhead who was full of life, ran all over the place, loved taekwondo, loved football.
He had everything going and just had a joy for life.
TJ had this energy that was just hard to describe, because with three boys you think that they're all going to be the same, but every one of them is different.
Again, right, TJ? Again.
He was really like a great light. He made people happy to be around him. To be loved by TJ was really the greatest gift. We had no idea how deeply he was struggling.
When she took her life, that was a shock. We knew that she was sad, but for me, I didn't know she was deep in depression. She was bullied out of her group.
Nobody wanted anything to do with her.
I thought she was so strong in her faith, it's not something she would have thought about.
Because Madison was so sensitive, I knew when she told me what happened, and the whole summer was ahead, I knew I had to do damage control, you know, to try and, you know, keep her engaged in doing something so it didn't get her, you know, to fall into a hole, but it didn't work. He seemed sick, like he had the flu, and really what happened, it was a severe case of depression. And then we realized it was more than a severe case of depression. He was diagnosed with bipolar in a psychiatrist's office. One day he'd be Johnny that everybody knew, and then the next moment it was like, who is this person? And then he died Good Friday in April, and he stepped in front of a truck on 78 out here.
What was most shocking is we never really worried about TJ. He was always so capable. He also was very, very impulsive and very fearless. So I definitely worried about him. I never worried about anything like suicide.
We knew he was having trouble, but we didn't know to the extent of how big of a problem it was, and he was truly just this amazing, not actor, but he did put on a mask because he wanted to please everybody. And one of the things that we think back now when we think about TJ is he never wanted to disappoint anybody. He always wanted to be there for everybody, so when somebody else was in pain or in trouble, he was the first one there to help, but he couldn't help himself.
We were fortunate. We found there was roughly 2 or 3 support groups in the entire state of New Jersey, and we found one and we started attending it. And then they basically handed it over to us, but Terry and I went for the first time to the suicide support group. It was about 2 months after John's death, because we were just at a loss. I mean, it's an unfathomable loss when you lose a child to suicide. There's no words to describe it. There's just no way to come across and say what's going on in your life, because it's the first time in my life I felt alone in a room full of people. And it's different for every survivor that we've met in the support group, but probably 3 to 6 months after the suicide, many of the survivors start to feel very much alone. It's consuming them, and they're crying in the shower and they're crying in their pillows because they don't want to cry in public. Put a smile on, because again, we live in a society where it's hard to talk about your grief and to be honest that you're struggling.
We can help educate parents and teens regarding depression, mental health issues and concerns, and how to approach the individual that's suffering.
We worked with American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and then, of course, you know, as time went on, we established Madison's Ray of Hope, and we started like establishing our own thoughts about, you know, what we would like to do in her memory to provide resources and help to others.
I believe that that is the best route to stem the tide on suicide.
I was asked to sit on a panel of parents who had lost children in all different ways. And I was the suicide loss survivor mom. So I started speaking at those, and then at that it was, well, would you come and speak in a school? That really was how Remembering TJ was born. We have countless stories. We get letters from kids, from parents, telling us I'm TJ. And a school counselor sought me out at the Out of the Darkness walk and said, I just want you to know that you saved a life of a 7th grade student in our school last week, because after you spoke, he came to us and said, I need help. And he had a plan, he had a method, and he wanted to live.
You need to start to communicate and find a way to talk. And to get through this, I think one of the best words is breathe. You gotta just step back and take your time. Suicide doesn't define who they were.
I love you, Mom and Dad, and anybody else that's watching. Bye.
Suicide doesn't define who you are. It is just how they died.